I just blew my nose, so my nose is all red. Hola! Hello! Diegwit, salut, annyeonghaseyo. This is Riki from Rikilikemagic, and she says hi. Today, in light of World Mental Health Day, that was this Tuesday, so I think the 10th of October, I was inspired to make this. This is my own journey and struggle, and also coming to accept my ongoing life with my mental health and my anxiety and the things that I work with every day. I've talked about this with so many close friends, but it's a different kettle of fish to be talking about it here. So, I've had my own stuff with anxiety and mental health. Mental health is a weird term. I think people get turned off by the word mental, but it's mindfulness and it's being okay in your head, and developing a healthy routine around that is super important. I've realized because I went down to a pretty deep, dark place a couple of times in my life. So now I am an advocator for that should be the first thing that you take care of every single day, and it should be a number one priority is how your brain is. Bit by bit we're getting there, and I want to add to that today by talking about what I have been through, a little bit of what I've been through. I'm going to talk about when things got really bad for me, when I couldn't run away from my problems anymore. That was when I started my master's in dance. That was in 2015, and I had moved from Dublin. I lived in Limerick before, and so I had friends there. I love Limerick, everything was wonderful, but the pressure of the master's started to rise something in me that was not fun. Very, very quickly, actually, within about 2 or 3 months, I started to realize that my coping skills for stress were not up to par or strong enough for what I was going through. My kind of vague anxiety that I used to have daily turned into panic attacks. Full-on panic attacks that I would have in the middle of dance class and have to run out. Everybody's panic attacks and anxiety attacks and reactions to this kind of stuff are different, but I had the classic, like, sitting in a corner rocking and crying and not being able to stop crying. I couldn't feel where I was. I was no longer in the physical space that I was. Every time I had these attacks, I was just somewhere else where only fear lived and tears, and I felt so unsafe and so under threat. It was 3 months straight. I would have full panic attacks from beginning to finish where I would just have to cry it out until I couldn't cry anymore and things started to settle a little bit. I would have panic attacks like that about 3 or 4 times a week, and then I would be fighting off about 5 or 6 every single day. I'd feel them up in my chest, and I'd feel things start to cloud, and I'd just try and breathe, and it was constant for about 3 months. So I want to be happy and I believe that I am in control of my own happiness, or I am predominantly in control. So I started to really think about what happens to me before I started having a panic attack, because they felt like they were coming from nowhere, but they weren't coming from nowhere. I was just really unaware of the thought patterns that I was having. It transpired that I was thinking horrible, horrible things about myself just before I would completely spiral. I was saying things to myself like I wasn't good enough, I was a terrible dancer, why am I even here, I'm not thin enough, I'm not technical enough, I'm not enough. It's a thing a lot of people carry, especially in the kind of society that we are raised in where achievement is everything. And I enjoy achievement, but I berate myself consistently throughout my journey, which is something that I really want to work on. A little interruption in the middle of this story. I did go and try and see a counsellor, which I believe is really, really important. You need to go talk to someone professional when you go through this kind of stuff, I believe. However, I had very mediocre to unsatisfactory experience with the person that I went to see. So I only went once and then decided I was just going to do this myself. But I wouldn't suggest anybody does what I did. I think it worked out for me very luckily because I found a really good path. But if someone doesn't suit you, you need to go find somebody else, especially if you don't have the tools or the support system to help you on your own. I've been to counseling, I think, two intense times in my life. One when I was really young and one when I did my BA. Both times were extremely important for moving through the pain that I was feeling. Definitely go see a professional who is trained to deal with what you are feeling. Another thing that I want to say is that what I have is not a chemical imbalance in myself. I'm very, very lucky to say that it's overthinking, it's a lot of internal stuff that can be self-regulated by sleeping well, by eating well, by taking care of myself emotionally. So what I have, what I work with, what struggles that I have to deal with is nothing compared to what some people have to go through. So everything that I say in this video is based on completely my own experience, and that's in the context of something that I can take care of myself. However, if anyone is resonating with anything in this video or it's a lot more extreme, I would definitely go see a professional or a doctor, because I am extremely lucky to have realized that this is something that I can handle myself, and not just myself, with family and friends and things like that. It doesn't need medication. So, to continue, so I was having all of this stuff and decided my mental health had to be my first priority. Otherwise, I just wasn't going to function. I started meditating, and meditating completely saved my masters and my training and my mental health. It is the number one thing I think everyone should do. If people don't really have a lot of experience with meditation, it is not about just being quiet, and you're not doing it right if your brain isn't quiet. It's really about letting the thoughts that you have just be, and not grabbing onto them and giving them so much power and letting them take over your entire life. If this makes anyone feel any better, I couldn't even sit with myself for 5 minutes without wanting to have a panic attack. But I did 5 minutes every single day. 5 minutes. I couldn't even do 5 minutes. 5 minutes was terrifying, to sit with my own thoughts, because my thoughts were what were scaring me so much. It took about 3 months before it was in any way kind of comfortable. And now I can't live without it. I actually do it twice a day now. And I suppose for now that's kind of not the end of my story, but that's definitely the beginning of a complete shift in how I viewed mental health. I just thought being anxious was default. I thought being anxious and worried about everything was just life. But I remember Riki, who was 10 years old and had so much joy, and all she wanted to do was have fun. Through that really hard time in my life, I wanted a version of that back, and I wanted an interpretation of that back, and I knew it was possible. I think for mental health, you need to be really kind to yourself, and that's such a cliche, but what I mean by that is you need to put yourself first and notice the things that you're saying to yourself, and notice the things that you think about yourself, and then start really rationally looking at the truth of it. Usually there isn't a lot of truth in the things that you tell yourself, the really ongoing negativity of it. So nowadays, I mean, I'm a completely different person to that person, but I needed to go through that to learn so much about myself, to understand errors in my own self-judgment and to shift it. I think it's gonna be like a lifelong journey. It is a lifelong journey, and that's what I want to consistently be working towards, is a more peaceful person, because I deserve that, and anyone who's watching this deserves that. You don't need to be the best. Everything that you're working towards, getting there, is not going to make you any better or worse of a person. You are enough. exactly the way you are right now. And anything that you do on top of that is just a bonus. And I think we need to all start thinking like that more. A couple of things that I want to clarify on as well. I never was diagnosed with anxiety. I was never diagnosed as having panic attacks, and I think that's really important to acknowledge that it's pretty much self-diagnosed. Now, rocking in a corner crying your eyes out is not normal. But I would really I would really encourage anyone who's feeling awful to speak to someone. You can't accept one iota of negativity or eye rolling or anything when you're feeling that way. And when you're better, you can help other people be better in any aspect of life. So you gotta take care of yourself before you can go and do the things that you want to do. And another thing that I want to share about my experience is in the context of the kind of journey that I've been through, in the context of the struggles that I have been through, I am a believer that I am able to choose to be happy, and I'm able to choose to work through this. To a certain extent, you can't choose the cards that you're dealt with. I didn't choose my nature. I am a nervous person. But I know and I believe that I can choose how I react, and I want to react more and more in a loving way and in a kind way towards myself, so that I can just work through this rather than going, you shouldn't feel like that, you should be this way, look at this person, they are so much better than you. It's so counterproductive. It's so counterproductive, and it gets you nowhere. You are who you choose to be. I mean, that's a really simple soundbite. You are who you are, but then, so this is who you are who you are right here. But then there's little pathways and there's little things that you can choose to do to make yourself a little happier, in my opinion. Another thing that I have come to decide about all of this, it's something that people don't talk a lot about because they give you tools to, like all of this stuff is bad and you want to get rid of all of that stuff. And of course you do, because it's uncomfortable and doesn't feel right, and you'd much rather not be having the heart palpitations. But what I've noticed though is this is all of my stuff. Hello, Shibby. This is all of my stuff, and this is the dark, not nice part of it. But it is a direct flip side of all of the good parts of me. So I overthink and overanalyze, and I care so much about other people that it affects my judgment of things. So then that makes me go blah, 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 blah. But that also means that I care so much about people. I am a good communicator. I'm able to talk through things with other people. I self-analyze and self-reflect, which is also really good for my mental health in the long run. I overthink, but means I'm a very good thinker. It means I learn quickly. It means I can adapt very quickly, and I'm very flexible. So the things that are hard for you are a direct relationship to wonderful attributes of you. They are there. There's just a little byproduct of the dark side of the moon. So it's about balance, I think. Instead of saying like, well, all of these things, I want them gone, they're horrible about me, I need them gone. Instead think like, okay, it's just because I am like this, which helps me in other ways, and it can help other people in other ways. That's really positive as well. It's something I've been trying to tell myself, because if you accept those parts of you almost as good things, it's not as painful and it doesn't cause as much suffering. Finally, just talk to people, or talk to one person. You just need one person. And even if you talk to one person and they dismiss or turn you down, that doesn't mean they're the one person that you could ever speak to. It just means you have to try another person. There's going to be one person out there that's going to be like, hey, that's okay. I've been through that too. I'm actually feeling that right now. So, for example, nowadays, on a good week, I feel like I can do anything. I'm having so much fun and loving life, and I'm Superwoman. But on a bad week, I've never been the type to not be able to leave the house or to not be able to get out of my bed because my anxiety makes me rush and run around the place, and I have no problem getting anywhere on time. But for me, it's being around people. I know that might be really strange for some people to hear because a lot of people have called me an extrovert, but on a bad week, it is like I am in battle. Every time I'm around people, I feel so under threat. It's extremely exhausting. I don't know if a lot of people would even realize that because I'm very good at still being bubbly and communicative and social, so nobody knows what's going on right on the undercurrent. I want two things for this world. I think every person should be two things. Be kind, please, because you have no idea what someone is feeling. And yes, while we don't want to mollycoddle around the place, it's pretty easy to be nice and to be gentle. And second thing I would love for this world is for people to be able to communicate. All you had to say was, I'm having a bit of a tough day. Could we please blah, 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 blah. Just asking for what you want or describing how you feel. And that doesn't happen. And I wish people could communicate better, but we're not taught communication skills in this society. But then sometimes people don't even know how they feel, which comes back to you need to learn lots about yourself. You just need to keep asking yourself every day, how am I feeling today? Oh, I'm feeling really angry. I don't know why I'm feeling angry. Okay, why am I feeling angry? And just start thinking and listening. Actually, that's a third thing. If I want three things for this world: people to be kind, people to communicate, and people to listen. And listen to yourself and listen to other people, like really listen, because so much comes from listening. So this was a particularly long video, and if you lasted all the way till here, thank you so much. Thank you for listening. I hope that I was considerate enough. I hope that I have something to offer, and I hope that I put someone at ease, because it's so common. It's so common to feel really bad sometimes, and it's not talked about like it's common. And that's silly. So this is a really sensitive subject, so if you don't want to comment, totally fine. I really hope this was okay. I hope sharing my story was the right thing to do. World Mental Health Day was this week, and if I'm passionate about anything, I am probably more passionate about mental health nowadays than I am about dance. I think it starts with you. Number one, it starts with you, and then your whole life falls into place if you get yourself sorted. If you enjoyed this video, you can like, you can subscribe, you can ring the little bell that gives you all the notifications, you can share it with your friends, and you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. Remember, you are who you choose to be. Remember, you can choose to feel better. It's hard work. It is really hard work, but I've never been afraid of a little hard work. Shibby says bye.